But then you wouldn't want to rip it up then, because it's actually the ace.
CG, it has a future.
All right, so thank you, Todd, for jotting your notes down today. Pren for meeting us at the door and accepting our U.S. currency. Craig for invocating us today. Then we're a little ahead of schedule, but that's perfectly fine. So today we have John Duda from Parks and Rec New York here to give us some information on what they have going on.
Okay. Thanks for setting everything up for me here.
I completely forgot to set the clicker up, so just give me a moment.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll give a little intro anyway. So, yes, my name's Jonathan Duda, and I'm from an organization called Parks and Trails New York, and that's not to be confused with New York State Parks and Rec. We are a nonprofit organization out of Albany, very small. It's a staff of about 7 or 8 of us, full-time staff, and occasional interns here and there. But our direct connection with the Rotary Club is has been extremely helpful each year in our providing transportation for our annual bike tour that we do. We do the finish line for the Cycle the Erie Canal bike tour here, and 8-day tour from Buffalo to Albany, and it's a fundraiser for us essentially. And 650 riders descend upon Albany on that Sunday morning, and they need showers, and so that's where the Rotary Club comes in to take their sweaty bicycle bodies to the YMCA, shuttle them back and forth. I believe some shuttles went over to the Amtrak station too. So yeah, it's a very helpful service, and we're very thankful for having you. And so I know that a few years back, one of my colleagues, Fran, she did a presentation for you here as well. So I'm here just to kind of give you an update as to what we do, what else we do in addition to the bike tour. Let's see, how does this, there we go. So yes, we're just a small nonprofit. We operate right out of Albany, and we consider ourselves the leading voice in the protection of New York State parks. There's 215 parks and historic sites throughout the state. We also protect 1,500 miles of greenways and rail trails. We say trails, but we really focus on multi-use trails. If you're familiar with the Mohawk Hudson Bikeway, and there's the new Albany Rail Trail that opened up. Those are the kinds of ones that we like to kind of focus on, paved, accessible, try to open it up accessible to all. And we started out in actually 1985 when parks we realized that really needed to be enhanced, and we created this whole big log of all the different tasks that needed to be done. In 1984 we became Parks and Trails New York, and we continue our work today. And so yeah, ours essentially is to promote, connect, nurture different groups. One of our big things, our big connections to state parks and historic sites is working with the volunteer groups for these sites. If you're not familiar with friends groups, a lot of state parks, Thatcher Park has a friends group, Grafton does. I discovered Parks and Trails New York as my past job, as I was the executive director for the Grant Cottage State Historic Site up in Wilton. And that is the only state historic site that operates without any state employees, no state staff there. It's all the friends group of the Grant Cottage State Historic Site. And Parks and Trails New York, they kind of hold your hand, especially as a new executive director. I didn't know what I was doing. So they were very helpful finding funding and things of that sort, different training. And so that's how I discovered Parks and Trails New York, as that through a friends group.
I'm trying to clear that notification out of the corner.
Oh yeah, I saw a little something.
Yeah, that's Apple being helpful. Oh, it was ignoring Do Not Disturb too. Oh,
Tricky. And yeah, I love my park day. I'll talk about a little bit about that in the future. That's our big event that we do each year, big volunteer event. And on the trail side, yes, I was talking about multi-use trails, but also locally here, things that we do is, for example, Troy, the city of Troy approached us and asked us, we need to connect the Uncle Sam Bikeway to the river, and they're doing this whole trail system. we don't quite know what we're doing. How do we do this? How do we do protected bike lanes, or all the, when you're driving down the road, the sharrows in the street and signage, things. So they came to us. They consider us, one of the go-to people, most knowledgeable organizations to be able. So we created this big plan for them, provided to them. So when you go through the city of Troy now, you'll start seeing a little more enhancement in terms of crosswalks and signage on the streets and everything, for not just for cyclists, but also for pedestrians as well. So that's one of the things that we've done locally. It's a big project, and it's going to be actually visible every time we go through the city of Troy. So we're pretty proud of that. Our big thing, though, our biggest trail that we like to focus on is the Erie Canalway Trail. It goes 360 miles from Buffalo to Albany, and I had the one of the wonderful perks that I've had was I got to cycle it from Buffalo to Albany on the bike tour here. Which, by the way, I did leave rack cards there. So if any of you are cyclists and you want to try it out, yes, it's an 8-day tour, but there's also 4-day and 2-day ones, and it's very flat. And I wasn't sure if I could do it, and I did. It was a wonderful thing. One of the best, memorable in my life, something I can just keep on trying over and over again too, because the trail is going to be, that is one of our big goals, is to close the gaps in this Erie Canalway Trail. We did a study about the trail back in 2014 in order to accumulate as much data as we could, so that when we go over to the legislators and say, well, this gap in Syracuse needs to be closed, we need funding to do it, that's one of the things we can go to them with, all this data that we've accumulated over the years. And also too, just the promotional value of the trail itself. Getting people from out of state into New York State is one of our biggest goals. Yes, we can travel from Albany to do it, but getting people from the other state to see the valuable resource that we have here, just something different that not any other state has, is one of our big goals as well. And we've been so focused on it over the years, we've created an Adopt a Trail program. So there's over 50 different groups, all from Buffalo to Albany, who kind of like the Adopt a Highway program too, organizations take their little section of the trail and they go out maybe once a month, a couple times a year, to go and clean the trail up as one of their community efforts. We have trail ambassadors who they kind of hang out on the trail, interview some of those who are cycling along, meet people from all over, and send the info pictures back to us to promote the use of the trail. It's amazing, some of these people who are they travel from California just to cycle from Buffalo to Albany and to complete it, and such wonderful stories. Just got one from a woman, travel it with her dog in a trailer the whole way, and made some really, really good photo opportunities. And if you do it from Buffalo to Albany, you become what's called an end-to-ender, and you get a certification, you get a little sticker, decal, and get your picture taken at our office. We accumulate different trails, and we also have an interactive map on our website that you can use in order to figure out the composition of the trail and things of that sort. You might be wondering, what are the gaps in the trail? What are the biggest challenges of it? And you can see, if you go on the website, you can see this a lot better, but we have them all lined out, just how much each gap will cost in order to close it, all kinds of things, such as right-of-ways, or just funding in general for some of these. I know in the city of Syracuse, their biggest challenge was Erie Boulevard there. Actually, they had paved over the canal to create Erie Boulevard, and figured, well, how do we do a trail along this? If you've ever run down Erie Boulevard there, it's in double lane, it's pretty messy. So they actually did a contest for the general public to submit designs, different pedestrian bridges and things of that sort, and apparently somebody won, and I guess it is underway. And so for years we've been trying to help some of these municipalities try to find the funding, trying to find the rights of ways and things of that sort. So it is moving along, and one of the biggest jumps about it too is because we have somebody in office right now, Mr. Cuomo. He's a big fan of connected of closing everything up. Back in 2017, during the State of the State address, he got up there and said, I don't want not just the Erie Canal Trail, but I want a 750-mile network of trails for New York State. I want east to west, also north to south. So, and it's happening. It's all the gaps in the Erie Canal Trail are starting to get paved, and finding trails and whatnot, or road enhancements for them. But the other big thing is this whole north-south idea, and people are just really excited about it, but then there's also a little bit of controversy about it too, because if you notice, I mean, a lot of this part of the state kind of gets left out. Even Long Island was saying, well, what about us? And so essentially this is the phase one. Phase two will be it'll essentially be the spine of all this whole network of trails throughout New York State. So yeah, Cuomo wants this to be the largest intrastate network of trails in the nation, and to get people to come here and to use. So yeah, you'll be able to relatively safely bike from Battery Park all the way up to the border of Canada. Granted, up here, along that whole route, there's they can't really do a trail through the Adirondacks. It'll be mostly on Route 9 and some protected bike lanes and things of that sort. But we're very lucky here in the Capital Region, because I mean this is where it connects, and so we're at a very good geographic location for it. And also too, it's really to bring awareness to our state historic sites. There's the walkway over the Hudson that they're going to use for that. The Olana passed through that. If anyone's familiar, for me, one of the most interesting aspects of it is right here from Rensselaer down to Hudson. Is anyone aware that there used to be an electric trolley that ran down? Yeah.
A couple doors from my house.
Is it really? Excellent. Okay, so
there's actually a bunch of historic trolley routes fanning out from Albany and Troy proper, and you can actually, if you know roughly where they are, a lot of times you'll find that these old road beds for the trolleys are now rights of ways for electric and phone poles. And so if I drive from where I am in Averill Park out to Nassau, there's a long stretch where you're running parallel to the old trolley line, and you can see the poles along it.
Oh, wow.
But it's much more level than the road.
It is, yeah, much flatter, and it's the one that goes from Rensselaer to Hudson is going to be incorporated into it. It's in the bid process. Apparently, it's open right now for the contract.
Is that part of the north-south trail, the one from Rensselaer to Hudson?
That will be part of the north-south trail, correct.
And again, how do they handle that? Because my family lives in Rensselaer County, and they get notification, and how are they handling that? Because a lot of those easements are, people have put sheds and
exactly, yeah.
And how's that going to be handled? And there's driveways, and they've even put roads on those easements.
Yeah, so there have been a couple of public meetings for it so far, and I know one of the obstacles that they did come across is right at the end of that, it will stop short actually, and you will have to go on the road, because I don't know if it's somebody's house, but is right smack in the middle of it, and I mean there's just no way of going around. They're not going to take the house away or anything. So I know there have been public meetings for it, and that's why it's progressed up to the point. And if you go on the Empire State Trail website, it's the .gov website. I was looking through. There is a very detailed study of just every little section of it and exactly what they're going to be doing to it, and so I believe they're past that point right now.
So they do have all the easements, do they?
I believe so, since it's up for the bid process now with the contractors. That's the point, that they're ready to start sticking shovels into the ground.
And that goes from Rensselaer out to what?
From
Mass?
Rensselaer, yeah.
And then down to Chatham, is that how? And then down to
East Greenbush, I believe it was, and
East
then
Greenbush?
down through Kinderhook, it looks like, and ends just north of downtown Hudson. Like it looked like they're going to curb it right along to the river.
And what about the bike trail on 9J? Are they still going to keep that, or is that Or just a bike path, is that just a bike?
I think that's just, bike shoulder, wide.
That's a bike shoulder. So it's
Yeah,
different.
yeah, on 9J. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of spots along from north-south that they just can't do a trail, so they'll do those extra wide shoulders. And but yeah, 2020 is when he says it's going to be done, and I mean there's project after project. So that's one of the things where we find are successful, that these gaps will be closed. That was one of our main goals, and we're pretty happy to see it. So. Whether, end of 2020, we shall see. Any other questions?
I just had one. So for some of the gaps that are across the existing Erie Canal path, how much do those you are running for a cost to close the gap? What's an average figure for that?
Average figure, yeah. This map here, I wish I could see. I wish it was a little bit clearer, but this is on our website here, the exact image, and each one is over $1 million. Yeah, ranges. It's like 1.2 million to, some of them are up in the 3s and 4s or so, about that. Yeah, because some of it's mostly just a matter of just paving. I mean, the trail is essentially there, but it's a matter of putting the infrastructure up and everything. Yeah.
Are there gaps that are kind of higher priority than others?
Yes, yeah. Of course, the higher priority ones are the easier ones that are, that they're getting out. The Syracuse one was one of the biggest priorities, and that's why they actually did that contest to open it up, because you're going right through the city, and it was very rough, especially for our bike tour, and that was one of the. It was nice because it did bring them past the Erie Canal Museum, which is a big stop, and that's part of the point of the tour, is to encourage visiting some of these sites. But that was one of the biggest priorities, I would say. So yeah, moving along, and to also get people off of that Route 5S that goes along the Mohawk River there too. It's 55 miles an hour, and there's a shoulder there, but it's I was on it just gripping my handlebars and these tractor trailers coming through. Yeah, it's pretty tough. Yeah, so another thing that we've been doing over the past few years is to let businesses know that bicyclists, we like to call them quote unquote wallets with wheels, they do spend. When cyclists come into town, they spend. They eat lunch, they buy trinkets, things like that. And so we host these annual meetings throughout the state, just to let businesses know how they can advertise a little bit better and promote themselves better to cyclists, especially for these communities who are right along the trail. You're just getting hundreds of people going through there each day, and so yeah, we host these. We do little bike arounds and things. So yeah, last year was in Waterford, which is right where the trail ends. There goes into People's Island. And then we just started a certification program too for businesses that we, they go through a list of criteria, and if they have, for example, a bike rack or maybe bike tools at their bed and breakfast, or knowledge of the trail nearby, all these little things, we will certify them as a bike-friendly business. We put them on our map, we put them on the list that we send out to, we include with different materials, such as a guidebook that we sell. For example, we'll include that with, so that people, when they're planning their trip, they can look, oh, well, these businesses will be able to help me out if I get a flat, things of that sort. So, little thing that we kind of help businesses out and give them a little bit more visibility through over the Canalway Trail. And yeah, and then on the park side too, our big event coming up that we get over 3,000 volunteers throughout the state. Actually, I'm going to say 6,000 now is what we're up to. On May 4th, and 135 different parks and historic sites participate in this throughout the state, and it's been going for years. We are constantly growing, constantly building it, and we just started incorporating National Historic Sites. I believe the Saratoga Battlefield was one of the ones that participated. So we're starting to expand it, and it's just been getting bigger and bigger each year. And then the Canal Clean Sweep too. That goes the Erie Canal, but also the Champlain Canal. And all different volunteer groups, they sign up for their area, and then volunteers sign up through us and connect with them. And that's pretty fun because they do a contest each year of what's the weirdest thing you find in the canal. So things like tires and toys and whatnot. Do you have a question?
Yeah. I live near the Pine Hollow Arboretum in Slingerland.
In Slingerland, yeah.
And their objective is to connect the rail trail from Voorheesville to the Arboretum.
To the Arboretum?
Something that they're working on right now. Maybe we should talk a little bit about it.
Yes, please have them contact us. We can help them find, that's one of the things is that...
some stuff before you leave, and I'll see that's done.
Thank you, yes, we can help them find funding for it. If they're, we run a grant program, but it's more geared towards, right now, it's limited to state and DEC sites, but we're hoping to open it up in just a bit. I think there's one little thing about here that I'll talk about in just a bit. But yeah, these are 2 events that we have coming up here. And just to see, I mean, last year for the I Love My Park Day, and 820 trees planted and 135 miles trails improved and all kinds of, so yeah, quite a lot. And it's like I said, just all from Long Island all the way up to Buffalo, and seeing all these different parks and sort of everything from city parks to these historic sites taking part in it. And on the drier side, should I say, is the advocacy work that we do. We just had what's called Parks Advocacy Day on Monday. We all went over to the legislators and told them to support the budget in this year for New York State, the New York State budget. And the last several years has been pretty easy for us. Back in 2010, though, what really got Parks and Trails New York, and if you see these buttons here that we had produced, back in 2010, if you remember, Thatcher Park was about to be closed, and I mean, there was a big uproar about it, and we were one of the ones that led the fight to go over and say, no, please don't close this. And that's, since then, we've been doing these annual advocacy days to just, even though right now, yes, the budget is steady for parks, it's good, but the attendance has been increased. It was 72 million last year, and yeah, it went up from 68 million to 72 million in 1 year. And so yes, the budget is fine and staffing is flat, but the fact is that more people are coming into the parks and we need more staff. So that's what we've been going over to try to push for, that we'll need more to accommodate. So it's a good thing, but we need to be able to accommodate all these new people coming in. And then
maybe our members need to be aware of it, but there's a beautiful new visitor center at Thatcher Park.
Yes.
And if you haven't been up that way, go find it. It's really good. And it overlooks, it's in the parking lot overlook of the city.
And there's just these comfortable Adirondack chairs that are out on this outdoor porch that you can sit on and just look over. You can see a view off of the escarpment there. So yes, if you go to our parks, you'll notice the bathrooms have been improving. There is definitely noticeable changes, noticeable improvements. And with that comes more people, and with more people we need a little more funding. So again, too, that's where the friends groups really come in handy as well. They're the ones who take the jobs that the state just can't get to, and so
Yeah, at most spots, or is there a list at spots where you say you don't have a bike? I see some have the bike rentals. Are there certain spots where the bike rentals, so if you just want to go for the day and don't have a bike, and
is this along the Erie Canal Trail?
I thought I saw it at the D&H spots along the D&H.
Normally they've got these CDTA sponsors.
Yes, the CDTA bike share, which even though I have bikes that I use all the time, my own, I still use the bike share. Yeah, and there is a kiosk right there at the what do they call it? The Albany County Helderberg Hudson Rail Trail, and that is such a wonderful. I think it's only.
A lot of people don't have bikes, and I don't have a bike, but I like to go for the day and not necessarily walk. I'd like to ride it.
Yeah, and I think I want to say it's like 15 for an hour or something. It's a little much when you do it by the hour, or no, I'm sorry, 15 for the month, but $5 for the hour. And yeah, surprising, you'll be surprised just what an amazing view. The trailhead is on South Pearl Street down in the south end. There's a little parking lot there. Bike kiosk is right there, and you can pay there, and then you take the trail up, and it's it goes right under the throughway under Route 9W, and the Normanskill Creek Gorge is there, and you're going along this. I remember the first time seeing that gorge and looking, I'm thinking, wait, I'm in Albany right now. Like rapids, it's whitewater rapids. It's well worth the
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to find out, because they had been working on plans for connecting the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail to the Helderberg Trail. Is there any interesting status updates recently?
Yeah, so yeah, that's been one of the challenges is to connect where the Corning Preserve Trail comes in. We're Alive at 5, having the kind of the safe part ends almost right where the Slater ship is, and so connecting that part to that trailhead in the south end. I think they did just finally settle on the path that it's going to take. They were even trying to determine it's going to be on street, somewhat protected bike lanes, so it'll be comfortable ride under the 787 overpass in some sections. They were even considering popping it over to where all the oil tanker trains were, because that rail yard is pretty wide. They were going to, somebody said, maybe we should put it there. It probably wouldn't have been the safest thing. So I believe they just settled on a design, and I'm not sure when work is going to start on it, but I know they were having a lot of public meetings about it, and it sounds like they've finally confirmed the route that it's going to be taking. Okay. A couple more things. Just more with the advocacy that, what I did start to mention before is we were also thinking in the budget for the past 4 years, we've been running the Park and Trail Partnership Program, which is a grant program that we run, we administer. And for the past 4 years, we've been getting $500,000 for it to distribute to friends groups of state historic sites and to state parks. For example, Grafton's Fire Tower, I know we funded that. The Schuyler Mansion, I believe it was an authentic replica of a carpet that they got funded for, and a position up at the Grant Cottage. So all these different little things that the state just can't afford. This money kind of goes through us. We decide which projects will get funded and distribute it. Well, it's been so successful that this year, instead of $500,000, they put $1 million into the budget for it. So we're hoping that now it will be able to expand it beyond just state parks, and so DEC sites also now are included. For example, Five Rivers over in Delmar, they've applied for funding through it, and a lot of these fire towers on these mountains are DEC lands, and so with that, who knows? Maybe even local parks will be able to start distributing it out to there. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that it keeps on growing and growing, and more work on our part, of course, but a little more cluttered in the office as we hire more. But yeah.
Are you familiar with the Cherry Hill site?
Historic site, yes.
Right by the river.
Yep, that's right down by the river. And is that county owned? I cannot, because I know.
It's non-profit.
Yeah,
it's a non-profit, okay.
Historic Cherry Hill.
Okay, because I know it's not. I know Fort Craylow and Schuyler Mansion are both state run. Or local state ones. But hopefully for sites like that, this might be able to be expanded into. That's what we're hoping. We're hoping that it will keep growing as long as we keep distributing. We see that the fruits of our labor, and that's just some basic info about it. And Complete Streets, I had talked briefly about this with the Troy bike plan that we did. It's not just about cycling for us, but it is also about accessibility for all, whether you're walking or in a wheelchair and have to cross streets, and just getting down that curb, things of that sort. That's some of the advocacy work that we do. Just these little subtle things that not the whole general population is always concerned with, but there's definitely that population out there that just crossing a street, for example, can be just very difficult for people. So that's another bit of advocacy that we do. Yes?
Is anything in the Complete Streets program focusing on training and education? Because I'm primarily a rural cyclist, but I pay attention to what I see on the streets of Albany. And so what I typically see on the streets of Albany is that the driving population is pretty oblivious to the fact that they're double parking on top of bike lanes, and that the Albany police don't seem to be that interested in enforcement.
They don't, true. Yeah. Well, us in particular, we haven't reached out yet, but I know in the city of Albany, and something that I'm part of, there is a group of us who are trying to put into the Albany city budget to hire a full-time Complete Streets staff who will actually do exactly that. It'll be the education for that, because there's all the crosswalk signs, things of that sort, and people just, they just get ignored. And it goes both ways too. It's drivers, but also pedestrians in terms of walking right out into the street.
Well, I have to say is that I'm sensitive as a cyclist to how easy it is for a oblivious motorist to kill me.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I've seen some remarkable YouTube videos of New York City from above, and they will show you phases in which the pedestrians are being awful, the cyclists are being awful, and the drivers are being awful. Everybody's behavior sucks, and everybody needs to behave better.
Yeah. So that's one of the things we were pushing. We went to a city council meeting a couple months ago, and just I gave my perspective as a cyclist and everything. It's if they do hire someone, put it into the budget, then that would be part of it. Is that education factor?
Well, isn't it true, right? The cyclist has the same rules as a motor vehicle.
True.
Okay, so they're supposed to stop. They're not supposed to. Even though there's nobody coming, they're not supposed to run the red light. Not supposed to run
the red light. Yeah, even these side streets, and I'll admit I live right in the residential neighborhood, and I'll be waiting there at just single and look both ways, and I'll go. But that is you're absolutely right. Yeah, cyclists. Same vehicle rules, exactly. And to signal too. That's another thing. Is signaling people they don't do on their bikes, and it's
I'm going to make an observation here that's actually a little technical, because this is something that I spent time studying. Is that notion that we have cyclists behave the same as motorized vehicles is called the vehicular model. And it goes back 40 or 50 years when someone did a very detailed study of the kinds of accidents bicycles are involved in. It's still considered a landmark. But he then went on to publish a vehicular model claiming it was based on his accident study, and in fact his accident study doesn't really support the vehicular model terribly well. But the vehicular model is deeply embedded both in North American traffic law and in engineering standards. So the issue is that it may not be the right model, but everybody has it in their head who thinks about it at all. So it's virtually impossible to change. But one of the challenges is that the vehicular model wants the cyclist to ride to the right as much as is safe. That requires the cyclist to ride in a spot where motorists tend not to see them because they never look at them.
The cyclist wants to go straight.
Yes.
And so it's a problem, but it's a problem that's virtually impossible to fix.
So going back to the Erie Canal bike event that we helped with, how many bikers usually participate in that versus how many do the whole length versus just like the last portion of it?
For the bike tour itself? Well, there's 650 riders altogether who do it, and out of those who do the full 8-day tour, I would say it's usually about 500 to 550, and then the other 100, 150 do a combination of the 4-day tour or the couple of 2-day tours that we offer. So yeah, I would say the majority is the full 8-day. But yeah, very few only do. There's the 2-day tour from Canajoharie to Albany, but if you haven't done a long tour, that's what I would suggest. I mean, again, it's flat. But me personally, yes, I was a little tired at the end, but it's just, most important thing is just that making sure that bicycle is comfortable for you. Just, yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah, it's that saddle sore that's what got me. And yeah.
People make fun of my old school leather Brooks saddle, but I can put a lot of miles on a Brooks saddle without hurting.
Can you?
Yeah.
It's again, you can be in perfect shape, but if that one part just isn't fitted right. So yeah, last thing is just to stay connected with us. We have different e-news and newsletters that we send out, and then 2, you can become a member. You get discounts on the bike tour or discounts on the things in our store, such as the guidebook and things of that sort. So yeah, thank you so much for having me, and let me tell you more about what we do. Yeah. Thank you for your help too over the years.
We'll just get one picture for.
Of course, yes.
So.
All right, nice to see you.
Hold on a second.
So we'll stay here a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Was that PTNY.org?
PTNY, yep, it's in Parks Trails, New York.
You said you won. And I said
Thank you.
that. What the hell are you?
All right, so again, for those that can make it Monday afternoon at 2:30 down at Rise, we'll do the finalization of the grant for giving the textbooks, and then we'll wrap up with the forward test so we can stand and
Let me
begin the day.
publicize that event.
Mhm.
Send it out.
Of the things that we think, say, or do, is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned.
So you like, well,